So, ladies and gentlemen, today we are going to talk on a remedy which I suppose is the chilliest remedy of the whole materia medica. It is the chilliest. Chilliest बोले तो उसको it cannot tolerate cold in any form. It might be water, it might be food, it might be weather, it might be a room, whatever in any form. It cannot tolerate cold in any form. That means it is the chilliest patient of homeopathic materia medica. So that makes it hypersensitive. Makes it hypersensitive. How sensitive? If a Hepar patient has to be given an injection um, in the bumps. I mean, for example, if a Hepar patient has to be given an injection, uh, what is this place known as below the
Buttock.
buttocks? It's supposed to be taken. Patient is supposed to be given a injection in the buttocks, and even if you take a swab of um, spirit and you rub the buttocks and you start laughing. You start laughing, he just can't stop laughing. He will, the whole body will start trembling. So he is so sensitive. He is hypersensitive. उसको पकड़ के इंजेक्शन देना पड़ता है because he feels the tickling sensation. Even a touch will give him a tickle. I remember this rehearsal. Why I remember rehearsal? Because that time I used to work with my father in his hospital, and almost for half an hour, that time we were the nurses and the ward boys were holding a patient, and whenever the nurses would try to give an injection and used to start laughing loudly. उसको गुदगुली होती थी गुदगुली. He cannot tolerate that गुदगुली also. He was so sensitive. So this is one part. He is hypersensitive. How hypersensitive? That if he is sleeping with the whole body covered, and for example, even if the hand or the foot comes out of the quilt, blanket वरनं जर हात किंवा पाय जरा जरी बाहेर आला exposed to cold, and he'll get a bout of cough. He'll get a bout of cough. He gets a bout of cough. So slight exposure, his hand, few of his fingers are exposed to cold air, or his toes are exposed to cold air. His foot has come out, or his hand has come out of the blanket, and he'll get a bout of cough. And that bout, and then he'll wake up with a bout of cough because he has felt that cold. Forget about fresh water. Forget about cold drinks. Even माठातलं पानी, वो जो बोलते हैं ना मट्टी का गड़गा रहता है, even that water is intolerable. If he drinks that water, he will get 100% is going to get inflammation of the throat. It's so cold. Now forget about cold water bath. It is out of question. Is extremely cold, and so cold that he cannot tolerate cold in any form. Even if he drinks, he has to have warm water when he drinks water. He cannot have normal water because that is also too cold for him. It is hypersensitive. He is hypersensitive to cold, hypersensitive to pain. That's very important. How hypersensitive? He cannot tolerate pain in any form. He is hypersensitive to pain. That pain is so severe. The pain is so severe. He can have an impulse of killing himself. The pain for him, the person, himself, is so serious that he may have an impulse of killing himself. So he is hypersensitive and hyperimpulsive. वेदना सहन न होऊन स्वतःला संपवायची इच्छा करणे is also because वो सह ही नहीं कर सकता उसके pains. He is so sensitive, and then he chooses the ultimate. He likes to finish himself off. He may kill himself not because of the suicidal tendency, but because of an impulse. That pain cannot tolerate pain in any form. The pains are so severe, and the pains are so severe that in case, even if a child is crying and if he is in pain, if this person is in pain, for example, if this person is in pain and that time a child is crying or something is someone is irritating him, he may throw the child into the fire. He may throw the child into the well because of the pain tolerance, intolerance to the pain. He cannot tolerate pain in any form. He may throw whatever the object is away. This is this is again, it is a typical tendency of murk. I mean the syphilitic miasm. The destructive nature comes in because of the pain. They is hypersensitive and hyperimpulsive. This is an impulse, sudden, irresistible desire, ati tivra ichha. The impulse is ati tivra ichha, and then in this impulse, he may try to throw the child away, or he may try to break something, or he may commit a suicide. All these things because of hypersensitiveness of the pain. Whatever pain is there, the pain is known as splinter-like pain or fishbone-like sensation. I don't know how many of you all have eaten fish and got a bone stuck in your throat, but this is known as fishbone-like sensation. If you don't take fish, fine, but there's a splinter-like sensation. There's a pricking in the throat. The throat is pricking, and that pricking is so severe he cannot even swallow. He cannot even empty swallow. Cannot even empty swallow. The pain is so severe in the throat. The throat is inflamed just by drinking some few sips of cold water, few sips of cold water, or inhaling cold air. He can get a hoarseness of the throat by inhaling cold air. But just by inhaling cold air, he may become hoarse. The throat gets inflamed very fast, so cannot inhale. If he tries to pull in cold air through the mouth, and then he can get laryngitis, pharyngitis. He cannot swallow. Swallowing, even in empty swallowing is difficult. म्हणजे थुंकी सुद्धा गिळता येत नाही. So it becomes so difficult because of the cold. Whenever he is exposed to cold, his throat becomes totally inflamed. His tonsils become inflamed. They may become septic also. They become septic. So that's why I said it is the chilliest patient of homeopathic mater medica. Cannot tolerate cold in any form. Any form. It might be food, drinks, weather, room, AC, whatever you put it, he cannot tolerate cold in any form. Now, exactly here we have got a contradictory symptom here where there is a profuse sweating. There is a profuse sweating. Now, why this sweating? When he cannot tolerate cold in any form, why there is sweating? You will ask me the same question. I know why there is sweating when there is such a lot of he is such a chilly patient. गरम गरम होने वाले आदमी को तो पसीना आता है. Yes, it is understood. But why a person is so cold? इतना ठंडी लगने से भी he likes to he sweats profusely. The reason here is because of pain. You imagine any pain you have, whenever you have a pain, you start sweating. Not that you're feeling cold or not that you're feeling warm, that's why you're sweating. It is because of the pain. Because of pain factor, you sweat. So this is typical Hepar where he sweats profusely and then his whole body smells. Do like what? It smells like old cheese. Now, what is old cheese? We don't believe in old cheese because we always go for Britannia, Amul, Govardhan, and all this stuff. We have processed cheese or cottage cheese. That's what we people like. But if you go to Italy, they'll go in for old cheese, where the whole it is covered by fungus, thick fungus, and then they have this cross. They cut the cheese, and then you can make out that the worms coming out of the cheese, and they have the cheese. that is smelling awful, but for them it's a delicacy. From them, it's a delicacy. Where it is old cheese, or I'll give an example. You're going out of the house, गड़बड़ में आप घर से बाहर पड़े. For example, you have forgotten a bartan with milk or dahi in it. You have forgotten to wash it. And when you come back home, when you open the door, you have a strong sour smell. That is the smell of an old cheese. Strong sour smell. All discharges are Hepar, strong sour smell. Ati ambus was. त्याला आम्ही आंबट अंबूस, अति अंबूस वास. इतका अंबूस वास की वय आपल्याला सहन होत नाही. We cannot tolerate it. So that type of smell the part discharges have. He sweats like old cheese. He smells like old cheese. His body sweats like old cheese. I mean, the smell is old, like odor is like old cheese. His discharges are like very strong sour smelling discharges. Even his pus has got a strong sour smell. Hepar pus, it is having a tendency of, I mean, slightest injury is separating in hepar. Slightest, because I told you hypersensitive. Slight scratch here and it can be full of pus in few hours. I still remember that time my every Diwali vacation, we used to go to my farm in Pirachwadi. This is 8 kilometers from Kolhapur. So we used to spend our Diwali vacation in the farmhouse. So one day my friend said that he would like to visit. One Diwali, my friend visited. Now this person was a very hairy fellow. His body had a lot of body hair, and was a very hairy fellow. So there in this farmhouse, the servants they were very fond of giving us a Diwali bath. Diwali bath is consisting of when you apply oil, the whole oil is rubbed on the body, and then that utna, then you that apply utna, then because of smelling that stuff, and then you rub that till the dead skin comes off. So this person was enjoying it because someone was pressing his head, someone was pressing his back, someone was massaging his hands, this hand, legs. So 4, 5 servants were doing all this job, and he was thoroughly enjoying it because he had never experienced all this thing. And in the evening, my friend became a robo. I said, "What happened, my dear friend?" He says that there are so many abscesses on my body because of the hair, the heart massage, the hair were plucked out, and every place the hair was plucked out, there was an abscess. There was an abscess, and the whole body. He became like a robo. He couldn't walk, he couldn't sit, and he had high fever also. So that time my father had to give him some antibiotics and bring down the fever. Now this multiple abscesses or whenever like plucking of hair is a very common thing, my dear friends. Anywhere, even if you rub your eyes, you may pluck a hair of the eyelid. Hmm? Or when you massage your head, you may pluck few hair from the scalp also. Or when you try to remove the dirt from a hand, you may have, if you try to remove the dirt from the hand slightly hard with a brush or something like that, you may pluck a few hair. So every time a hair is plucked, that is not necessarily that you should have an abscess because your body has got its own immune system. But Hepar has got multiple abscesses, and all these abscesses are extremely painful. And this pain is not limited to abscess because the pain the person goes into infective fever. He goes into infective fever. This can be multiple abscesses on the body, and all these abscesses are hypersensitive. You try to go near the abscess, you try to go near the abscess, and he will shout out his life before you touch the abscess because the abscess is hypersensitive. It cannot tolerate the pain. There are multiple abscesses, and this is because of slight injury, and there's a separation. That's why they say Hepar is a combination of calcarea and sulfur. That's what they say. Hepar is a combination of calcarea and sulfur, the chilliness of calcarea and the sensitiveness of sulfur in the skin. So both this Hepar sulf is a combination of calcarea and sulfur. Calcarea sulf is also combination of calcarea and sulfur, but calcarea sulf is a hot patient, whereas Hepar is a chilly patient. Now, when we say splinter like pain, which all remedies have got splinter like pain? We have got nitric acid, which is having splinter like pain. Then we have argentum nitricum, which is having splinter-like pain, and then Hepar Sulph, which has splinter-like pain. As a fishbone is stuck in the throat that cannot swallow. The swallowing is difficult, hoarse of the throat because of inhaling cold air. So inhaling cold air, अभी तो कहीं भी you go on a two wheeler, you inhale cold air. It is a very common thing. But in Hepar, the moment you inhale cold air and you have this throat is totally inflamed, redness, and sometimes they can give pus also. So here Hepar has got he has got a great desire for sour things also. He likes sour things, dahi, tak, uh, all this dahi, tak and all, chach, dahi. All these things, he is very fond of all these sour things, chakka and all this. So here he is very fond of sour things, pepper, and he does desire, and his discharge is also highly sour. All these discharges are yellow, thick yellowish, the pustular discharge, and anywhere, even if you are cleaning your nose and then slight hair, some hair from the nose, nostrils come out, and there's an abscess in the nose, or when you clean your ears and some hair is plucked from the ear and there's an abscess there, or when you rub your eyes and few hair are plucked and there's abscess there. This is a tendency, and this tendency has to be killed by homeopathy, because every time you take antibiotics, yeah, I'm not against antibiotics at all, because well, that's a standard treatment, but antibiotics is not going to improve your immunity. So you have to take precautions. अगर बच्चे को बचपना बचपन में अगर उसको आइसक्रीम नहीं खिलाएंगे तो खिलाएंगे क्या बुढ़ा होने के बाद? So naturally, you have to bring out that tendency, because they say नहीं बच्चों को हम आइसक्रीम नहीं खिलाते. बेचारा, how much frustration he must be going through. उसको आइसक्रीम नहीं मिल रहा है. And ice cream is a beautiful thing. Whether anyone gives me a pound of ice cream, I may finish it. That's not a problem. But here, Hipar cannot tolerate food in any form. So here, a small child is deprived of ice cream. Some people, they just cannot enjoy a cold drink in a summer weather. It is such a lovely thing to have a cold drink, a coconut sharbat or a nimbu sharbat during summer. It's a beautiful feeling. It is a heavenly feeling. But Hepar patients cannot tolerate all these things, and that's why Hepar happens to be the chilliest patient of Hopiling Butter Medica. And because of this extreme sensitivity, he can be extreme impulsive, and in this impulse, either he may injure himself or he may injure others, because of the intolerance to pain. पेन इतना सीवियर है कि उसमें अगर उसको गुस्सा आ गया तो अगर कॅन डू एनिथिंग, त्या वेदनेमध्ये त्याला जर राग आला तर तो काही करू शकतो. तो स्वतःला मारू शकतो किंवा he can throw someone from the top floor also because of the pain. He is just cannot tolerate the pain. So here we have talked about Hepar in general. Of course, particular symptoms, there are a lot of particular symptoms, but one more symptom which I would like to narrate in Hepar is when the bladder loses its force. When the bladder loses its force, here Hepar has got a very peculiar complaint of the bladder. The bladder loses its force. When the bladder loses its force, the urination is perpendicular. Normally, urination has got a trajectory. It trajects forward. With the force, it trajects forward. But in Hepar, the urination is perpendicular. It falls down because the bladder is not compressing fast enough. The urinary bladder is not compressing fast enough, so the urine just falls down. Hepar can be used even in fistula, where the fistula becomes extremely painful, cannot tolerate pour. Even if when you clean your uh, clean your ass or clean your bums with after you go to the latrine, to try to clean it with cold water, cannot tolerate cold water. He wants warm water, because if he applies cold water, there can be a pain in the anus. Here also Hepar needs warm water, and as I told you, the bladder becomes very weak. The bladder becomes so weak that the urine is perpendicular, it falls straight. It doesn't fall in a trajectory, but it falls straight. And that is a typical symptom of Hepar, where the bladder has lost its power. There are a couple of remedies which have got this symptom, very common. One of them is also causticum. Then one more remedy, I think, Gelsemium. All these remedies have this symptom, but Hepar, it is because of uh, any infection where the then we call it the infection of the bladder or urinary infection, where the bladder loses its force and then it falls down, because Hepar is prone for infection. Every infection Hepar is prone for because it's hypersensitive. So my dear friends, I am opening up the windows, and in case you have any questions, you may ask.
Yeah, good evening, sir.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, sir. Sir, in the sensitivity of cold in the children, where they don't enjoy the ice cream, we have given Hepar Sulph, right?
Yes.
So momentary, yeah. The sore throat goes off.
Sore throat goes
But
off,
in the
and the tendency to take cold goes off.
no, the sore throat, but the tendency remains. So what will be the chronic of Hepar Sulph for that?
No, Hepar Sulph itself will bring out the tendency. उसका जो tendency है ना कि to take cold very easily, that
so in those cases we have to increase the potency,
or we have to give a dose of sorinum. Dose of sorinum.
Okay.
Because
okay.
Sorinum is a, what do you call it? Message में sir. क्या बोलते सोरिनम क्या बोलते हैं? ये सूचना सोरिनम में लिखा सर like tuberculum, what tuberculum, sorinum, syphilinum.
Nosodes.
Nosodes, yeah. It's one of the nosode, a very deep acting nosode. I forgot the name. Old age is catching up with me. So
no, sir.
Nosode, it is one of the nosodes, and to change that constitution, you have to give a nosode. So the slight change in the constitution, it's not that it will become totally warm. It won't be a hot, but at least the tendency to cold will reduce.
Because some children ना taking the slightest a sip of the cold drink और एक ठंडा दही भी खा लिया तो गले में खराश हो जाती है.
हाँ वही ना, इसलिए तो Hepar है. Because one of my friends, every time he had to have warm soda and warm water whenever he has to drink. Today he can have his drink in a with ice on the rocks, and he says that because of your medicine, Hepar, I can drink I am a drink on the rocks.
Okay.
आपका साइट है उसने रिव्यू कर दिया है मैं बैक दफा हो गया मानसी पाटिल.
Thank you, sir.
Any other question? Any other question?
सबको बोला रहेगा सुमित क्या नहीं आया वो ग्रुप में नहीं डाल देगा. Clothing manufacturer.
Shall we end the lecture?
Yeah, sir, we can. No questions, so we can end.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Bye-bye.